Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Just Believe podcast. Today, I'm honored and blessed to have this lovely young lady on. I saw her do a live, and I don't know, I just felt like it's like, oh, she spoke my language, like the realness. Okay, that's what I like. Being from the Bronx, that tough ruggedness, that I love it. But not only that, but like the importance of mental health is, I take it serious. This is the thing. Like, I wake up, if you want to talk about mental health, let's go. And I was honored to get her on. Mr. Curby, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, and really excited to be able to share with your listeners. So thank you for asking.
Oh yeah, no problem, no problem. Mental health, especially in the Black community, is something that's like not talked about. So for me, being an advocate and now turning into like a mental health coach, I always look up to people like you. It's like, I want people to understand, a therapist is not a bad word. Going to therapy is not a bad thing. It's actually a healthy thing. It's showing the growth in the person, being mature enough to say, hey, I got some things to unpack, man. Let me unpack this. And so what you're doing is awesome. I'm excited. So actually just tell the people about yourself and what you do.
Okay. Well, my name is Curby Rogers. I am a licensed professional counselor in the state of Texas. I live in Houston. I am originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Have not lived there since 2011. So it's been a while. I went to school in North Carolina at St. Augustine's College, then now it's university, and then North Carolina A&T for grad school.
Okay.
And yeah, so I went to undergrad for initially, I wanted to be a doctor, so I went for pre-medical studies, and then I minored in sociology. I fell in love with sociology, just the study of human behavior, and ended up changing that to my major. And I knew that I wanted to go to grad school, but I just didn't know what. So I applied to a variety of grad schools, all in the realm of like sociology, psychology, mental health, like just that spectrum. And found that this was really where I was supposed to be. So here I am, and I have my own private practice, resiliency counseling services, and I can share that information later, how to reach me and contact me and things like that. But I work for a school district right now in Houston as the mental health person for the whole district. So I provide resources, referrals, support, crisis response for an entire school district here in Houston.
Nice. Look at you. Okay.
Yeah.
So, did you know, like, hey, this is the realm that I always wanted to be in, or it was just something that you just stumbled upon like during school?
I stumbled upon mental health, like seriously stumbled into it. As when you're growing up, you're like, oh, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer. You say all of these things that you want to be, but I don't know. I think really I guess how naturally the study of human behavior came to me in school. I was just like, what else can I do with this? Like, that's really what it was. Like, what else can I do with this? Because I didn't really know that I could be a therapist or I could do that. Like, I had no idea.
They don't explain that to you. Yeah,
no, they don't.
When you think of doctor, you think of like
what can I do with a degree in sociology? Like, what can I do with that? I have no idea. So I started taking like some aptitude tests and things like that, just to see where even my strengths and weaknesses were. And everything pointed out to being like guidance counseling, therapy, mental health, like substance use, like it all pointed to that. And so I was like, I could be a teacher. I could be a therapist. And so I just kind of went from there and really allowed myself to just use some of my previous experiences and those experiences of others to kind of just shape me to be the therapist that I am today. And I think this was exactly what I was supposed to be doing.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah, I remember growing up, my goal, I wanted to be a doctor, right? Like I was so into like, I'm gonna age myself, into like the Dookie Housers, the ERs. Like I was like super nerd about it. And unfortunately, like I experienced a death, right? And when I experienced that death, I was just like, oh man, like I can't tell a family Like I tried my hardest. Like I tried my hardest, but I couldn't do it. Like not, and so I was just like, all right, well, I'm not gonna do that. And I just lost like interest in being a doctor. And
Mm-hmm.
I just started playing basketball and realizing like you, like the behaviors, right? Like, especially when you're a kid, you're always playing with constantly like different types of kids. And I was like, man, why does such and such act like that? Right? Like what is going on? And realize like now that I'm older, you realize, oh, okay, they have something going on in their house, but they don't know how to express themselves. Right? Like now, like even like me being a man, a young man, some of my guy friends, when they're going through something, right? Like, when they're going through a breakup with a girl or something going on with them and their girlfriend, they start acting out. And I was like, hey, dude, what is going on? And they're like, oh, no, nothing, man, And I'm like, dude, it's fine. It's not like I'm going to record us having a conversation. Like, just talk about it. And then once they start releasing, hey, man, me and my girl was just arguing about this and that. And it's like, dude, it's perfectly fine to talk about your feelings. No, I don't want to seem like I'm weak. I don't want to seem like a weak. And it's like, dude, we have to break that stigma of guys can be vulnerable. You're human. It's a human thing. It's not a weakness, man. But no, I love it. With the mental health, like how do you evaluate like, okay, let me work with this person, because I know like it's not always going to be a perfect fit. Like some
Oh
people
yeah.
might be, because I tell people there's a language barrier, right? Like there's a
Yeah,
language barrier.
absolutely.
There's a language barrier. So how do you like, maybe I can refer you to another one, or do you know like off the jump, like this is not going to work?
Well, I think that that's a really good question. I think that something that I do is I try to fill people out for what their experience is and not necessarily looking for a mental health diagnosis, because I think that that's sometimes where that barrier to communication can come up, because not everybody that goes to therapy has a diagnosis of
Yeah.
some sort of disorder. Like that's the thing. So I think one thing that I try to do is figure out what's really going on with the person at the core, right? Not oh, I'm stressed out about work, or oh, I just had a breakup. But I mean, like really the deepest parts of someone. That's where I'm doing my assessment. And so once I'm able to explore what the deepest part of someone is, that's when I'm able to say, you know what, I think that this person may need something else, or I think that I'm a perfect fit. I have not, I'll be honest, in my experience, I have not had to refer too many people out. And I think that's just because I've really govern myself on being educated in a variety of topics, a variety of experiences, cultures, backgrounds, sexual orientations, all of that, so that I can help people. But if I do recognize that there's not a fit, my goal is to make sure that they get what they need and refer them out so that they can get the support. Because again, I want to end the stigma for mental health for everyone, not just people that look like me.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, that's where my passion is, because I feel like within Black and brown communities, there's just way too much unhealthy rules about what it means to seek therapy.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah.
no, you nailed it. I remember, so like when I was acting out, quote unquote, like one of my friends was like, oh man, hey, why don't you go to church? Right? Like you go to church, pray all your demons away. And I'm like, at this point, like I'm trying to figure it out. Like I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with me. And I go to the church, and like getting that treatment was something different, right? Because like I'm not like the biggest religious guy, but I'm like, okay, cool, like I get it. But then like my buddy's like, hey, like is it working? Like, you've been going for like 2-3 months, and I'm just like, nah, dude, like this is more than just praying demons away, man. And I remember talking to him. I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about trying to see if I can save up some money to go to therapy. And he's like, dude, we're guys. We don't do that. And I'm like, what? I'm like, all right. And he's older than me. So it's like, all right, I guess we don't. Being a young man without any guidance is like, okay, well, he has more experience in life. Let me listen to him. But now I'm realizing like, okay, you can go to church and pray it out, but there's still some issues as people that we have. It's not just
Yeah,
a praying a demon. Like unpack those traumas that you have and really have that breakthrough that you're looking for.
absolutely. I definitely think that there's if you remember from even the live that I did, we talked about the rules that are within certain communities that we live by. And these rules aren't written on a wall or anything, but they're kind of the unspoken rules that we follow. And one of them is, unfortunately, especially within Black communities, is, praying about it will always fix it. And I do believe that we have to have something greater than ourselves to connect to, of course.
Yes.
And we also need to do something that's a little bit more rational and logical at times, and get the support. Because if you are someone that believes in God or things like that, like, you believe that God put people on this earth for a reason.
Thank you.
He put therapists on earth for a reason, psychiatrists and mental health hospitals and all of those things for a reason. So you got to utilize them. So we definitely cannot pray away depression. We definitely can't pray away, schizophrenia. You can't pray away you can't.
Yeah.
You can't do it. You really just can't do it. And so, I definitely believe that we have to break down those rules. Even like what happens in this house stays in this house.
Yeah.
We have got to get rid of that rule. Have got to.
That's one of the biggest ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I've worked with way too many individuals of sexual assault to have them work that rule into their life. What happens in this house stays in this house. Like, it's not something that's helpful. It's actually a really maladaptive rule that we have got to get rid of.
You're traumatizing that person, and unfortunately, being a child, you're teaching another child to pass on that generational curse, as I call it. That is a generational curse, because if this stays in this house and say someone is beating up on their kid in a way where their kid is like physically like hurting, what do you think is going to happen when that kid get older and they turn into adult? They're just going to keep passing that on. No, that's perfect that I saying that, because I always tell people, you have to know who to talk to, because obviously you can't just talk to anybody, because some people don't know how to handle those conversations, but realizing like, okay, I can have a conversation with my homeboy who's going to be responsible enough to understand, and he might guide me in a way where I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you know what?
We have to have safe people.
Yeah, you have to have safe people. And building that core of friends. With my story, I had to. My first breakthrough, I had to eliminate a lot of people in my life, right? Not because they was bad for me, but I know they was triggers for me, and realizing, okay, if I'm hanging out with my boy, Jamal or whatever, he gonna want to go to the strip club and drink, right? I can't drink. Like, if I go drink, yeah, I'm having a good time at the strip club, but when I'm home at the house, all those demons that's talking to me come out, all the insecurities come out, and then not only just the physical friends, but the social media friends, right? Absolutely. Looking at my list, and I'm like, oh, dude, you're still posting the same stuff from like high school? Like, come on, man, I'm trying to uplift one another, not make fun of each other. Delete. Oh, you're still twerking? Okay. All right, dude, like, bro, you got like 4 kids now. Like, come on now. It's not cool to see a little baby twerking anymore. Like, like uplift us in a way where it's like, we're not N words, we're not B words, but we're kings and we're queens. So that's the type of stuff that I needed to see, the inspiration, because I was in a dark place. That's the type of thing that I needed to be around, because I needed that positivity, right? And realizing that, and it helped out a lot, because once I started doing that and I realized the demons in me, that voice that was raising it is now sounding like Daffy Duck, because I gave it that Daffy Duck effect, and realizing like, insecurities, this is your name, Daffy. So when he talks, I laugh. Like, all right, come on, man. Nobody takes Daffy serious,
Yeah.
And realizing that, okay, I do have the power. It's in my mind. I do have the power to be that person that I want to be. Now I am walking in my purpose a year later through the world, but not really being comfortable with my skin, It takes time, but I think it's important to realize, like, yes, you need the right people to guide you. And if you can't find them, go look for them,
Yeah, I think that's kind of the way that I do therapy with my clients, is really just trying to help them find their purpose and walk it, and also just change the narrative that has, dictated the way that they navigate the world. A lot of times we are, we have this belief about ourselves, others, and the world. And so we believe that is like the holy grail. And that's cool, but what happens is when we have this negative perspective of ourselves, others in the world, we're navigating the world like that is truth, and it's not. It's usually based out of trauma, it's usually based off of experiences, things like that. So if we can shift the perspective of how we see ourselves, others in the world, then we can live a life that's healthy, we can live a life that's fruitful, we can, kind of walk into our purpose and really take our power back instead of living in this powerless state. So that's kind of what I'm working on with my clients on all the time.
I love it.
Let's change the narrative.
Yes. Oh, actually, I wanted to go back because just in case somebody's listening or watching, with the the unwritten rules. Would you like
The
to break
unspoken rules.
Yeah, the unspoken rules. Would you like to break them down for just so
Oh
people can
yeah, I mean, they
identify, like,
definitely.
oh wow, I didn't realize that is an unspoken. Yeah,
Yeah, there's definitely a variety of unspoken rules because it's all going to depend on, what culture you come from, religious background, what your family circumstances may have been. So it's going to vary, but some that I hear a lot, I'll share some of those.
yeah,
Is
sure.
one for sure is what happens in this house stays in this house. Another one is that showing emotions makes you weak. Another one that I hear is that being being a woman and being emotional makes me people will say that it makes them a target or it makes them be viewed as crazy, right? Another one is that if you're Black and you're a woman and you're assertive, then you are the angry Black
The angry
woman.
Black woman. Yep.
Right? So that's another
Yeah.
unspoken rule. Another one is for some of my more religious clients, that specifically like some of my Orthodox Jewish clients. They kind of come from a place where, if you don't follow these rules, then you're bad.
Yeah.
Like, right. And so, the rule that they follow is that if I'm not following the doctrine, then I'm going to hell. I won't prosper.
Yeah.
Right. So those are just some of the unspoken rules that people are having. And I think that if we even break it down from, different sects of like the LGBTQ community, there's unspoken rules there too. Like,
Oh,
if you're bisexual, you're confused. If
yeah.
you're,
The stereotypes of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. All those are rules, right?
Yeah.
Like, lesbian women that don't want to date bisexual women because, they're confused. They don't really want this. They don't, So there's like, even in those different sectors, there's all these unspoken rules that people are living from that just are really maladaptive.
Yeah. I wish I understood where they came from, Like
yeah, it's just just generational rules, and just they come from, even if you look back in like history, that's where those come from, like even like a societal rule would be that like Black individuals or minority individuals are less than.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's although it's not written. Well, it was at one point.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
at one point, but it's not written. It's not written technically now. It's not written, but based off of all the experiences and based off of the system of it, you see that it's a rule.
Yeah. Of course.
It's just obvious.
Unfortunately, I hope at some point in my lifetime to see the system get redesigned. If it gets redesigned, where in a way where it's like, oh, okay, we actually got a shot. We're equal. I think some of those rules would just go away.
That's a podcast for another.
No, I know. I'm just saying. It definitely is. But I just hope, like in my lifetime, I'm able to see that. But even with you being like into this mental health field, was there a moment where you yourself like doubted yourself as far as I don't know if I'm doing this right?
No.
I love it.
So I don't mean to come off overly confident. I just mean to come off as like, I feel like this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I always have. And I don't think that there's a right or wrong way to help other people necessarily. I just think that as long as you have a philosophy where you're not trying to do harm and you're always coming with the best intentions and there's no bias, you can't help but be impactful in a positive way to other people. I think that what happens when, I have in fact met some therapists where I would be like, I wouldn't send anybody to them. Yeah. And that's usually because they're not allowing people to just be who they are. They're molding people to who they think that people should be. And
yeah. It's a totally different thing.
You have to be able to have no bias. You have to be able to have empathy and validation. And validation is not agreeing with people, but your ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and understand why that's their circumstance or why that's their perspective. And so I feel like I'm really, really, really good at being able to put myself in someone else's shoes and understand why that's their experience, whether I agree with them or not.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's what makes me such a good therapist and makes it easy to connect with my clients. Like, I feel like my clients and I have a really good relationship, like just where they can come on and talk about something that they might not ever say to anybody else out loud, but they just know, they're like, oh yeah, no, we can talk about that.
Yeah. Like we need to release this anyway.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Like, you know?
No, I love it. I think with that, it's hard to find a good therapist now. with like the reviews of like, you know, looking on Google and stuff like that. And now
Yeah,
not even that, but you can do your research, and you can't find a good one. You just keep on going. The one that you
yeah.
feel like that you could connect with. It was something that happened in the pandemic that like made me want to like cry. So once the lockdown happened, right? You know, I'm connecting with, you know, the pros of mental health, and I started seeing a lot of them, probably 95% of them offered free service for like an entire month, right? And I was like,
Hmm.
wow, like a minimum, it was like a minimum of a month, one, you know, like one time, like whoever comes first come first serve type
Yeah.
of thing. And I was like, wow, I thought I would never see that, right? Because they realize some people, their coping methods was running to the liquor store, doing that or doing that. So it gave them a chance to, hey, let me get uncomfortable and go see a therapist. And seeing so many therapists and counselors and psychiatrists like open up, like, yeah, just schedule it, come to the website, and you know, you get an hour session of me. We can work together. Like if you book them enough in a time for that span, you can work with it. And I thought that was beautiful. I was like, unfortunately, it sucked the fact that it took COVID for this to happen. It took COVID for people to realize the power of mental health. You know, there's people out there that, yeah, they can't leave that. They could leave the house, but they can't leave their mental. You know, it's like
Yeah.
this is how someone feels when they're battling their depression. So
COVID
seeing,
allowed people to slow down
yeah,
and just kind of sit with things, because I think it's really easy to live in a world of distractions when we have to go to work, we have to go to school, we have to take care of the kids, we have to, you know, do all of these things. It's hard to focus on your mental health sometimes because you're always busy, which is really just a distraction tactic.
hmm
But when you put being in the house for 24 hours a day for several months, not being able to do anything, like people start to realize like,
yeah,
oh man, there's things there when
yeah,
I'm not busy, you
yeah,
know?
yes,
So
yes. Like
it
I can only
sucks.
watch Netflix so many times. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
I
it
can.
sucks
Yeah,
that it took the pandemic to slow people down, and I believe sometimes that crisis breeds
yeah,
change,
yeah,
and I think we can all say that the pandemic has breed a lot of
yes,
change.
yeah, yes. I've seen unfortunately, like in New York now, they just passed a law where they're going to send out some like mental health experts for certain calls.
Hmm.
Talk about grown man wanting to cry. I'm like, about time. You know, like what happens when there's a 5'2" woman dealing with a man who's 6'4"? He has a mental health issue, and she calls the cops. And unfortunately, you have a
Yeah,
situation like what happened in Rochester. And it's
yeah.
like about time we actually get the pros up on there with the police to help them. Like, hey, don't hurt him. Just, you know, we're gonna go get him the right help. I thought it was beautiful.
I you know, I've had some experiences where I've read some articles from, you know, all over the states where cops have responded to mental health challenges and totally not handled them in a way that was appropriate, because I definitely think that there needs to be more training and more
Yeah.
awareness. And also I believe in having like a mental health like crisis response team, you
Yes.
know, like
Yes.
within our police departments. Like I really
Yes.
believe in that.
It should be
Like,
another department where
yeah,
if there's
absolutely.
somebody
That,
mentioned the word mental health issue, okay, cool. We're gonna
yeah,
send the cops, but first we're gonna send them, and then they can, if they need backup, they can call. Yeah, yeah,
absolutely. Like I
yeah.
think that there just
I'm
needs to
hope.
be something different that's done in those responses, because I hate when I hear the story of like people calling the police because their loved one is, you know, off their meds and off their rocker, and then that loved one ends up shot. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
it's sad,
Because
but it's a
unfortunately, it's over
reality.
their head. Yeah, it's over their head, and you know, and unfortunately, yeah, no, no. Thank you for sharing that
Yeah.
concept. Yeah. So unfortunately, we got to go. Let people know where to find you at.
Oh yes, find me. So again, my name is Curby Rogers. It's CURBYROGERS, and I can be reached by email at rccounselingservices@gmail.com. So that's usually the best way to reach me. I also have a Instagram page for my business where I try to post, you know, videos and, you know, affirmations and just try to get the education out there. And that is at Resiliency Counseling Services on Instagram. So
Yes.
please reach out to me, follow me, and just if you need anything, you can send me an instant message or email me.
Yes. Yes. Oh, wait. You know what? Before we even wrapped up, there was something I wanted to because you said you covered the school districts, right?
Yes, in Houston, I work for Galena Park School District.
So is that like high school, middle school?
It's all. We have
Ooh,
daycares within the district, elementary, high school, middle, intermediate, like all of it. It's all of it. And
thank you. Thank you for your services.
yeah,
I
support
appreciate that.
students and employees.
Okay, so are you just like breaking down mental health?
Yeah, so if with I don't want to say just with the way the world is, but I will say that lately things have been very, very intense. And so my job really is to kind of anticipate the needs of the district by providing mental health training, support, referrals, working with students that maybe are struggling with actual mental health diagnoses or things like that, or have had traumatic experiences, making sure that they get the support that they need in school as well as outside of school to help them be as successful as possible. Because if you know that a student is struggling with, like, let's just say major depression, for example, you can't expect the same things out of them as a student that's coping. Like
Yeah.
you just can't.
Yeah, it's
And
too
so making
different.
sure that they have the support in school as well as outside of school in order to be successful.
Thank you for that. I don't know if anyone ever told you, but you are a real superhero.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yes,
I
yes.
try.
I appreciate this. Thank you once again for doing this. This was
Thank you for
phenomenal.
having me. I appreciate it. This was awesome. So thank you
Yeah,
so much
yeah.
for
Just I told you,
asking.
just sitting back, just having fun and educating people in the best way possible. All right. Until then, guys, I'll see you next time. Peace.